What's up, my Zen witches? It's Luna here with another video for you in my Beginner's Buddhism series. So introducing you to basic Buddhist concepts, particularly Tibetan Buddhist concepts, through the Compassion Box by Pema Chodron. So this is a deck that I reviewed. You'll find a link at the end of this video. And it's using cards in order to train, mind training. Buddhism is mind training, in the basics using slogans. And Atisha was the great teacher that made up all these slogans, and the training of using these slogans is called Lojong training. So I'm taking random cards every day. I thought about going through one at a time, but then again, I do use this deck in kind of an oracular way, and I thought if I take one randomly, we have a better chance of it being exactly what you need to hear today, right? I don't know, that synchronicity principle. I'm always a fan. The card I've chosen today is quite near the end of the set. It's number 44, and it says train in the 3 difficulties. And before I go any further, I will ask that any mistakes and idiocy that I spew from my mouth about these things be graciously forgiven. Okay, thank you. So, train in the 3 difficulties is this slogan. And, you know, one of the things that is a characteristic of Buddhism is its simplicity. The concepts are so basic, and they are things that you know, the suffering that's talked about is something that is basic to all of us as human beings. So there's this commonality, and there's a simplicity to it that makes it very easy to understand. These are concepts we're intimately familiar with because we all are prey to them. We all suffer from them as human beings. It's not like this highfalutin esoteric thing where you've got to go through layers and layers and layers of initiation and jargon and everything in order to get to the real stuff, get to the magic. The magic is laid out there for you from the very beginning. You know, the Buddha said, here's how to become enlightened. I did it. You can do it. Here's how. So many teachers, they're interested in us getting there, not in having some exclusive club that it's really difficult to get into, even though it is really difficult to get into this club. So the simplicity can be deceptive sometimes because it is difficult. Just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy. And trying to overcome our basic human nature and the way our animal brain works is not an easy thing. It's the way our brain works, but it is simple. So these slogans really boil things down to some of the simplicities, and some of them don't sound so simple. But here's a great illustration of simple does not equal easy. Train in the 3 difficulties. The 3 difficulties, or the 3 difficult practices, are to recognize your neurosis as neurosis, then not to do the habitual thing, but to do something different to interrupt the neurotic habit, and make this practice a way of life. So first, we have to realize that what we're doing is fucked up, that we are engaging in thinking errors like catastrophizing or black and white thinking, or even just judgment of something as absolutely good or absolutely bad, absolutely right or absolutely wrong. So catching yourself is the first thing. So we all have habits. We all have, neuroses. We all have fucked up things that we do. And I want you to think about, somebody is licking my toes. I want you to think about, and it's my cat in case you haven't been watching. Anyway, I want you to think about like some bad habits that you've had, particularly if you're not like in your 20s. Think about when you were in your 20s and you didn't know shit and you thought you knew it all. And just some of the things that you would do, or maybe some things that you learned from your parents about how to manipulate, how to get what you want without coming straight out and asking for it. Or let's say, somebody says something to you and they say it in kind of a sharpish way, and you spend the next hour telling yourself this grand story of how this person has wronged you and they might hate you, but they're the one that's wrong and blah, blah, blah. And maybe they were in pain. They had a headache. It had absolutely nothing to do with you, but you've spent hours interpreting how it had everything to do with you and creating this grand story that then generates lots of emotions. That's a neurotic habit, right? We all do it. So first thing is to catch yourself in the middle of that story and go, okay, hold up. Did that person actually tell me they were mad at me and they hated me? Or is this just me interpreting? So if you can catch yourself when you're caught up, or even better yet, when you're about to get caught up. And oh, is this hard? It is so hard, particularly once you're caught up. Pema Chodron likes to talk about getting hooked. Once you get hooked, and there's this thing called shempa, which is that second where where they've got you. They got you by the short and curlies, and then you're off and generating emotional energy around it, and therefore generating suffering. So if you can catch yourself right when you feel that tug of, now I'm going to be righteous. This is one of the flags to recognizing something like this, is that feeling of, I'm right. When you're starting to feel righteous and explain to yourself all the reasons why you're right and they're wrong. That's when you stop. So that's the first difficulty. And, straight up, they tell you these are the 3 difficulties, And I also want you to notice that it says train in the 3 difficulties, not accomplish the 3 difficulties, because Buddhist training is mind training and the mind training is lifelong, because these are habits. This is the way human minds work. We're not ever really going to get completely away from it. And getting completely away from it is enlightenment. So, it's possible, but are you going to get there this lifetime? I'm not. I'm trying. Okay, so then the second difficulty is not to do the habitual thing, but to do something to interrupt it. So, like I said, if you can catch yourself the moment before or just as you're feeling getting hooked and you interrupt it, or midstream, when you're fully in the flow of these emotions and you can catch yourself and go, wait a minute, this is feeling shitty. Why am I doing this? And recognize you're doing it and saying, I'm going to stop this, take a breath, dissipate that emotional energy, and make a different choice. So that's number 2, seriously difficult to stop. 3, do it for the rest of your life. Make this habit a way of life. So it means that I'm going to do this for the rest of my natural life. Every time something comes up, every time I get hooked, every time my partner says something to me the wrong way, and I think, oh, there he goes again. This is just like when, and off we go, right? So again, no bones about it. This is not easy, and it's vitally important, and it really does help you to experience life in a more immediate way, in a more present way, in a more peaceful way, a more relaxed way. And the thing I want to warn you about is when you recognize your neurosis as neurosis, not to then take that forward. So, one of the ways we suffer is by creating these stories, by interpreting our perceptions and adding so much to them. So even doing this practice is fraught with opportunity for self-abuse. And you recognize that, I have this neurotic habit. Stop yourself right there. Step 2, stop yourself from turning that into, I'm such a failure. I'm a fucked up person. I'm never going to be any good. Oh, my life has been such a misery. And this is why, or your victimhood. So when you recognize your neurosis as neurosis, don't use that as an opportunity to abuse yourself. So then the step 2, interrupting yourself. Don't do it by berating. You idiot, you did it again. What the hell is wrong with you? So that's another, interrupt that neurosis. Whoops, there I go again. I was being human again. Oh my God. And then move on, right? And then doing it as a way of life and for the rest of your life. Again, not to berate yourself when you catch yourself being human. It is gentleness. Pema Chodron talks about sitting meditation and how it's like a puppy. Instead of every time your mind goes off, you stop and say, damn it, I did it again. I failed. It's like a dog. You're just saying, stay very gently. If you're screaming at the dog, it's going to take off, right? Very gently, stay, stay, stay. It's a gentle touch. And if you're moved to get a copy of this compassion box, you start where you are. And you saw that I had the book open here. In the book at the back, there's a listing of all of these slogans, and you can go to the part in the book where she has commentary on it. And with this particular one, the commentary was pretty much the card. Oh no, she does talk about it. Seeing neurosis as neurosis. So the first difficulty is to see what you do. Liberate yourself by examining and analyzing. Now, she says there's an interesting point to be able to see what we do without hating ourselves. That's what I was just talking about. Can also be a description of Maitri or loving kindness, showing loving kindness to yourself as a motivation to practice and catch these neurotic things, right? To reduce your own suffering. All right, we could see what we do and realize that that's our first experience of the big squeeze. She calls it the big squeeze. It's the path of the warrior, seeing what we do without turning it against ourselves. So that is a spiritual warrior. It's not, I'm going to use it as a weapon. It's, I'm going to step up as a warrior and stop myself from doing that. All right, the slogan about liberating yourself by examining and analyzing simply means don't be jealous, don't be frivolous, don't wallow in self-pity. As with those slogans, the first step is to see yourself jealous, see yourself frivolous, see yourself wallowing in self-pity, right? You could think to yourself, well, what would Dr. Seuss do in this situation? Instead of using it as ammunition against yourself, you can lighten up and realize it's the information you need in order to keep your heart open. And then doing something different. Can you do something different? What would that different thing be? And even if you can't stop yourself in the midst of it, maybe later on, once you're out of the big squeeze, once you're out of that emotional turmoil, you can look back and say, how wonderful it could have been if I could have caught myself, and think about what was my first clue that this was happening. And what would it feel like for me to, in the middle of all this emotional stuff, just say, oh, I don't want to feel that, and let it go. And I'm here to tell you that's possible. I have learned to do it, and I do it all the time with my family. I used to, ooh, boy, can I get in a snit about something. And can you imagine that? Me? And I have learned that if I'm in a snit about something and somebody says something to me and it's like, you know what, this isn't worth it. And I just go, okay. And you really can just let it go, and it goes poof. All right, so doing something different and then continuing that way. So doing something different is catching yourself. Meditation is something different. Anything different would help. Anything that's not habitual, until the good habits become habits. You could go take a cold shower, sing at the top of your lungs, drink a glass of water from the wrong side like you do when you're trying to get rid of hiccups. So she talks about those things. All right. Continuing that way, that even if you see what you do and even if you do something different, the third difficulty is that it's difficult to continue that way. Cut the habitual pattern as a way of life. And also because you are stopping just human habits and habits that you've probably built up over a lifetime. So she says, don't be surprised or give up when it's difficult. It is a lifelong practice, and the simplicity of the practice is its power. Also, when you're talking in spiritual terms, the bigger the truth, the simpler it is, because the big truths cover way more territory. So when you're looking at the simplicity of Buddhist teachings, whether it's Zen Buddhist or Mahayana Buddhism or Vajrayana Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, anything. There's that simplicity, because the teachings of the Buddha are the teachings of the Buddha across the board, period, regardless of the window dressings, And the simplicity of it all really covers a lot of territory. And, when the Buddha sat and meditated and came to the realization of why there is suffering, because he witnessed it and boiled it all down, that's when he attained enlightenment. So again, it's possible to do when you go to your sources of refuge. Pema Chodron is certainly one of my sources of refuge. I really appreciate you being here for these. I hope you enjoy them. Please comment down below if there's something specifically that you have a question about or that you'd like to hear about. I'm very happy to go find information for you because I'm not a trained teacher. This is my experience and my understanding of Tibetan Buddhism. Oh, please forbearance for the fuck-ups that I make. I really appreciate you being here. There's a Patreon link down below if you'd care to support my work. There's a Discord link too if you'd care to join us over on the server for some discussions that are going to be scheduled. As soon as Mercury turns again at the beginning of November, I'm going to start scheduling some voice chat events with you. So I'd love to start learning about what you're interested in so I can zero in on those things. Take care, everybody. Stay safe and wear your masks, and I'll see you tomorrow for another unboxing and another Beginner's Buddhism. Until then, this is Luna the Zen Witch. Blessed be.